Retro. No.
Best film adaptation in the past 20 years. That's right. I've said it. Dune Part 2 is the absolute best film adaptation in the past 20 years. I don't care what anyone has to say. That's how I feel. Welcome back, everybody, to the DuneCast. My name is Joe Tavano. Joining me, as always, my good friend and co-host, Rod Johnson. How you doing, man?
Man, I am doing great, and I could not agree more. Like, I left that theater and just had to, sit in my car for a little bit, and, wow.
Yeah.
So good.
You saw that movie, yeah,
Early.
you saw, I can't believe you started at 3 p.m., right?
Yeah. I was, looking, and I was so I was originally just looking at IMAX, and then I went to AMC, and they had a 3 o'clock showing in the Big D, which is their version of the IMAX, and I was like,
Right.
don't mind if I do.
Yeah, I can't believe how early they're making these movies nowadays, just to get that preview money in, because the preview day is just now a big industry indicator of how well a movie's going to do. So, and they keep on. Remember when the preview day was just literally the midnight showtime, and now
Yeah, and I went to a couple of those.
Oh, I went to tons of those. I loved you. I love the Midnight Madness, and then they just kept it rolling back to 7. I saw it at an 8 o'clock show on February 29th, and then you saw it at 3. So there was a bit of an overlap between our show times, and right as I was going into the show, you would basically text me and were like, "I've seen it. Call me as soon as you're done." And
Yeah, you're like, it's gonna be late, and I'm like, don't care.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so funny because when you were like that, I'm like, oh no, did they screw up something, or did they you wouldn't have said that to me unless they either blew it or they nailed it. And I'm like,
I was trying to say as little as possible because I was like, you need to go into this just
yeah.
to watch. I didn't want to try and influence you.
And holy crap,
I
did
was
they?
gonna cry if you didn't like it. I was gonna legit cry on the phone.
Well,
Would have heard a grown man cry.
how is it possible to dislike this movie? I'm not sure. I mean, I think it just has something for everybody. Even if you're not a Dune fan, I think this, as long as you have a cursory idea of what happened in the first movie, I think you could run into this movie fairly cold, not totally cold, but I think you need to have some idea of what happened in the first movie because it's a part 2. Obviously, it's the same book. But I mean, man, uh, Denis took what he was doing in the first movie and just took it up a notch.
Yeah, Denis, you can tell that this was a passion project for him and
Yeah.
that he wanted to do this story justice. And he did. And there were all the reviews coming in, the earlier reviews, like this was so great, and this is Lord of the Rings style. And I was just like, oh God, I wish they wouldn't say that.
I know, right? Like the expectation to live up to at that point. But my gosh, the critical reaction was just massive for a genre film. You don't get that always. You're bound to have a lot of snarky reviews being like, yeah, it's okay. But this movie, it was just like, no, it's good. It's real good. He nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it points out the flaws of the first movie. Not that there are a ton, because I think the part 1 is an excellent adaptation of the first half of the novel, but there are some flaws, and I think they're mostly around pacing.
Yeah, that's what I remember that was one of your biggest critiques of it.
Yeah,
And this one, I didn't feel like there was any pacing. Like it was 2 hours. What was it? 2 hours 45 minutes.
yeah, about that.
Didn't even notice.
No, it I wanted more. I was ready for another hour.
Yeah.
I'm like,
at no point did I look at my watch to be like, oh, I wonder how much we got left. I was so into this movie.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was it didn't really subvert expectations with the flow of the novel. You understood where you were in the novel, right? You understood by the time you got to Paul and Fade's duel, you were at the end of the movie. I mean, it really played out in a very I want to say predictable, but very natural way, which is good, which is a very good thing. There's no tricks, nothing strange. It's a straightforward story, which is good to layer on top of all of this nuance and all these unbelievable visuals and unbelievable soundtrack and just performance
Oh,
at a level
the
so high.
score hit so good. That score.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
the one that I really loved was when they were on the Dune talking, Paul and Cheney,
Oh, yeah, it was
and the Zim,
Sweeping Love, yeah.
and I was just like, this is perfect. Like, man, Zimmer
Nailed it.
crushes the score.
There was a moment with, it might have been when Gurney was coming back to, the Siege, and, there was something going on with, like, organs there. It sounded very synthy mixed in, with his orchestral theme, and I was like, "Man, this sounds wild. This is just something on like, just next level." Yeah, Zimmer nailed it. I think he nailed the first movie too. It might have been a little bit atmospheric compared to this one, but I mean that's his vibe, uh, generally in any event. So I mean, it just nailed it. Like everything was just firing on all cylinders. Um, it's rare to see a director move into a sequel and refine his technique and go even further and get better. And that's what he did. And it
He
just yeah.
Didn't he might be one of the greatest living directors right now,
I think
and
that's undoubtable. You know?
yeah, and the amazing thing is he's doing it in the sci-fi genre. Like if you look at the
Yeah.
majority of his movie, Two Dunes, Blade Runner 2049, Arrival. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, even like Sicario, I wouldn't call that. I don't want to call it genre, but it's like this heightened realism, right? Like there is, it feels like something that like Sicario is a movie that just it's not your everyday sort of characters and your everyday sort of world that you're in. You're in a really like crazy like sort of world that may be based on reality, but also at the same time most people aren't even seeing that world under a world, right? Of
yeah,
like assassins and drug kingpins and FBI agents. I mean, so there's he really does work, I think, in genre, and he's incredible. Whatever he sets his mind to, he just crushes it.
I do want to jump back one thing. We were talking about music, and you mentioned Gurney.
The Balisette,
We got a
the
ballast this time. That was
motherfucking
so great.
Balisette.
Because that
Oh
was like one of the things we were all like, "Where's the ballast?" They had the bagpipes, which was kind of an interesting choice, but
yeah, and
where's
it's
the
just
ballast?
it was just a stick. I love it. It was just it just like Herbert described it. It wasn't like this weird bassoony type thing that Lynch had, and it didn't sound any. It didn't sound like awkward, and it didn't sound alien. It just sounded like a stringed instrument, and just plucking away. I loved his lyrics too. He was just like talking shit about the crew.
Yeah,
He clearly didn't like he didn't like any of them.
yeah,
I never really
yeah.
caught that from the book either, but I loved that little
Well, I remember,
flair.
like in the book, like some of the crew gets killed by the Fremen, and there was never this. He's never upset about the fact that some of these guys got killed. It was always just,
They massacred
yeah,
them. They were
yeah,
in the middle of a battle between the Fremen and the smugglers, and the equipment is raining fire all around them, and all Gurney and Paul can do is just hug each other and be happy. Like who cares? You know, they're like
there
Gurney,
was
we're
so
getting
many.
slaughtered. Like have fun. Who cares?
Yeah, sick of you guys anyway. There,
Yeah,
and they gave us the line, "I recognized your footsteps, old man." Like there were
yeah.
so many little touches like that that I just absolutely loved. That were callbacks to the book. There was even some callbacks to the '84 movie that they did. We got the "Long Live the Fighters" line.
I can't believe we got that. I can't believe it. I was like, "Ooh." There were a lot of moments where as a Dune fan I went, "Ooh," or I just smiled or I just laughed. I swear to God, everyone around me must have thought I was a psychopath, like laughing at some parts because I was just so satisfied and so happy that I'm seeing something on screen that I never really thought I would see so well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like you talk about being in the theater, and you told me you bought an extra ticket so that nobody would sit by you.
All right.
I went.
Yeah. I wish I got 2. I wish I got 2 extra tickets because the
I
guy
didn't
next to
have
me was
anybody
just
sitting
annoying.
by me. I had a friend of mine kind of weasel his way into. He's like, "You're gonna go see that this afternoon." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "I want to go,"
Yeah.
and I was just like, "You can't sit by me."
It's like,
And he's like, I'll be quiet. And I'm like, no, you can't sit by me. I'm going to sit by myself. Like,
yeah,
we
no,
can talk afterwards.
this is a movie. This is between me and the movie right now. Like, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you want to go, cool. You should definitely go. you know,
Just not sit by me.
yeah,
And like, I
no,
was a little worried because like he actually ended up being on and he didn't even know where I purposely didn't tell him where my seat was. If he's listening to this, Paul, I love you, but yeah, I had to go by myself. But he was in my row and he was like talking to me during the previews and stuff, like kind of hollering down the aisle at me. And I'm like,
nah,
I better
dude.
knock this shit off when the movie starts. But
Well,
and he did.
the guy to my left pulled out his phone during the previews, and I just looked at his, I just like laser eyed his screen the entire time. Like, if you pull out your phone, I am just going to be looking at you. I'm just going to look at everything you're doing. I might even pull out my phone and just start recording you on your phone. Like, like I'm just going to make this as uncomfortable for you. And then he looked at me like he made eye contact with me, and I just dead face just looked at him like the dead face, and then he just slowly put his phone away, and it never came out again. Good man,
It was
good boy. I'm very happy that he did that because this is Dune, man. I'm not suffering
yeah.
these indignities.
I thought I was joking with somebody. I was like, I had to pick out which Dune T-shirt to wear, and they're like, "You have more than one." And I'm like, "Do you people not know me?"
That's amazing. I mean, I didn't really I didn't dress for the occasion. Wasn't a black tie affair for me, but my favorite shirt is my Chome shirt. I have this awesome Chome. Yeah,
Yes.
I love that Chome shirt. Chome not in this movie, not in the
No.
movie. I think it's going to be saved for Messiah, and I'll tell you why. I think, all right, obviously there's no Space and Guild in this movie, and
No.
you know something? You didn't need it. You didn't need it.
No.
The only thing I think it would have probably helped with was maybe for the muggles out there to like maybe get a better understanding of why spice is so important, right? It's said, it's not shown, and I think understanding that the Spacing Guild literally relies on this for all of interstellar trade, commerce, space travel. It is the end. Spice is the engine, obviously, that moves the universe. But you don't see it. You don't see folding space. You don't see any of this. So it became a sort of nebulous concept. But is that bad for Dune Part 2? And I say no. And I say no because this is an insular story of a handful of characters and their rises and falls. And you really get to be with them for all of this 3 hours. And that's where you are, and that's why you're so invested in this movie, and that's why what makes this movie great. And that's just like such high level thinking on the part of Denis that it's 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 a really good thing to do. So where do you end up with? You bring the Spacing Guild in Messiah when you start adding other factions, right?
The Spacing Guild, though, again, like you said, you didn't need him in this movie. Could we bring him in Messiah? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is the story of Paul. This is the story of the Bene Gesserit and their Missionaria Protectiva and what happens. And
Yes.
so you don't need that.
No. And you know something? I'm really, really happy of how well they foreshadowed um a lot of the concepts that are going to be coming in Messiah. And uh they really leaned into the idea of the Missionaria Protectiva and the idea that yeah, this is without a doubt we're not talking about a prophecy. It's not really a prophecy. And the people who believe it's a prophecy have been duped, and that is plain as day. There is no doubt in anyone's mind about that. There's no maybe there is a prophecy, and those who have the most faith win. There's none of that. There's no white savior going on here. It's very
No.
obvious and it's very clear. Dune Part 2 dispels any notion that this is not hero good guys win. Everything's gonna be okay at the end of the movie.
I knew you were going to be so happy when I left that movie. I was like, and I wanted to tell you, but I didn't. But I was like, man, they set up Messiah
They really
so
did.
hard.
So hard, so hard. And
I
like,
was talking to another one of my friends about it after the movie. Like, she went to a night show and we were talking about it. And it was just like, oh my God, we are definitely getting three. Like, there's no way.
and I'm calling BS. I'm calling BS on all this crap that Denis put out there before Messiah is greenlit. And I got to tell you, 81 million weekend. in 2024 post COVID, that that movie's greenlit, dude. We're getting Dune Messiah. There is no way we're not. And
Well, did you read the article from Hans Zimmer?
no,
So Hans Zimmer said, like they were 2 days into filming part two,
uh huh.
and Denis walks in and just sets Messiah on his
Oh,
desk.
the script is there. He has the script.
Well, not the script, just the book. So Zimmer said they were filming. I think he said it was only 2 days into part two, and Denis walks in with a copy of Dune Messiah and gives it to him, and Han's like, "Our work isn't done."
That's incredible. So it's like, I got to tell you something. It's there is no way Denis is going off to make another big budget movie for 2 years. Yeah, maybe he'll do like a 30-day shoot. Maybe he'll do like a little indie movie or something just to shake out shake out a little bit and take a little sabbatical. Maybe it's a year. Maybe it's a year off. But he's not moving to like a Blade Runner 2049 or another movie on the scale of Dune Part 2. It's just not happening.
No,
Because
and
we have
you
momentum now.
cast, yeah, and they cast, like, for example, they cast Anna Taylor Joy, which
Yeah.
I'm a fan of hers. I love her look. I think she's got a great look, and
She
like
she looks
for
perfect
Aaliyah,
for Aaliyah. She's
yeah,
one of those like Gen Z actors. I find this thing like with Gen Z that like it just seems like they have very wide. I just find a lot of young Gen Z people have like actors in Hollywood mostly. Their eyes are just very wide compared to like millennials or Gen X or boomers. I don't know what it is, and Anya Taylor Joy just has this beautiful face. It's just so exotic looking and like these very wide set eyes, and I just think it just adds to the exoticism and it makes it so you're looking at someone like Aaliyah and she's clearly not not a normal person and it just adds to that sort of like alien quality of her.
and I was like, so I got sent, same friend that I was just talking about. She sent me a TikTok, and it was just like Aaliyah, like question mark exclamation points galore, and I'm like, and so I watched the TikTok, and it was like all the actors and actresses, and I'm like, well, why is Anna Taylor Joy there? And
Yep,
then
at the
there's like,
premiere.
it has to be Aaliyah.
Yeah, it
Like
has
it
to
was
be.
one of those.
Has to be. And it was funny because it was one scene. It was only one scene. But, she's there, she's in. She clearly must know a schedule. I bet all of these actors already know a schedule for when you have to be like, because she's in high demand. It's not like you can just call her and be like, hey, drop everything. We're doing Messiah now because Denise ready. No, 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 no. That's not the way that's working. It's like, you know,
Yeah, they get their they've got their schedules.
yeah, I mean, everyone here. I mean, Chalamet's not just going to drop everything. He probably has 50 different movies he's already planned for. So
And
everyone.
and your favorite Zendaya, she's got 1,000 things she's doing.
Yeah,
I had to say it.
yeah, that tennis movie looks awesome.
Awful.
Yeah, looks great. Listen, okay, let's just get this out of the way. I think she's a great Cheney. I think she really pulled it off. I think that there was, you know, let's really unpack who Cheney is as a character, right? We're talking about a fierce woman, especially in this movie where she's much more a warrior than in the novel. She's part of the Fedaykin, right? So I think she played it right. Um, that cynical, world weary, sarcastic thing that pretty much is the only thing that Zendaya knows how to do. That's perfect for this character who is, you know, doubting, unsure of Paul, unsure of the consequences of loving this man, and then also a bit burned at the end, right? A little bit scorned. Let's be honest. Like Paul does her
Yeah.
dirty in the conventional sense of love, right? He does her dirty. So
Yeah.
I don't blame Cheney for taking that worm and being like, you know, I got to tell you, because I had your text in the back of my mind. I'm like, is she going to be the one to sacrifice herself to the worm in the desert? Is that where we're going here? Like, are they going to totally blow up like the Dune saga by killing Cheney before Alito and Ganimard are aboard?
Yeah, there's no way.
No, that's not happening. That's clearly not happening. Cheney's not someone who's going to commit suicide. It's just not going to happen.
No, and I was surprised that they went that route. Like I figured they would kind of, because obviously marries Irulan, but I thought they'd kind of go the route like they did in books and previous movies, where it's like, hey, you know, this is name only thing.
Hmm.
She'll never know my touch, blah blah blah. But they
Well,
did not.
that will be addressed. I think it's better to end the movie not knowing that. I think it's good for more of the casual audience to have that in the back of their mind, right? He turns around and says, "I will love you as long as I breathe," and you can tell there's sincerity there. And then he turns around and be like, "I'm marrying her." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it also sets it up, like for the people that wanted to love Paul, like to be the hero. You and I know what's coming.
I've been telling you.
The casual. So it's just like one more thing
Yeah.
that they can kind of dislike Paul for before we get to Messiah. They're like, oh, I can't believe he did Cheney like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking of just comparing this movie to other movies in recent memory over the past 10 years, and that scene where the heroes are incinerating the piles of the bodies of the dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that that's something the good guys do all the time. They have just people just mopping up battlefields with incinerators, just with the thousands of bodies they've just destroyed with nuclear weapons. That's something the good guys do all the time. It's funny. The first 10 minutes of the Force Awakens look a lot like the Atreides battle, and that's supposed to be the bad guys. I think that uh,
Yeah.
Kylo Ren has more in common with Paul Atreides than he does any Jedi. But to get off of Star Wars a little bit, but it is funny for everyone to sort of come to terms with the fact that you're not looking at a hero. You're looking at someone who has to do what must be done. Um, hey, didn't when when Paul was like, "I see a narrow way forward." I was just wait, and then he paused. Right, he paused, and
Yeah.
I was waiting for. I mouthed it. I go, "A golden path," and it was just quiet there. There was space for him to say it in the cut,
Ah,
and you got to wonder if it was filmed or not, if it's been cut. Like it could have
and
been
if it
there.
was, we'll never get it because Denis
No,
is pretty famously, he's like, well, we're not doing deleted scenes.
no, he burns all that stuff. I'm pretty sure after the movie's done. Um,
Ah, that would have been amazing, though.
it would have been wild. They set up a lot more of the Dune saga than you may realize at first blush. Did you know? Did you? I don't know if you looked at the credits and you looked at the entire cast. There is a Bashar. It didn't have a name, but the word Bashar. There is someone cast as a Bashar in this movie.
Huh.
You don't see that word. You don't see that word until Heretics of Dune. There are no
Yeah.
Bashars in the Dune universe until until that until that fifth book. So we're already going there at that point. Um, there, I think he faked this out a little bit too because Paul was like, "I've seen my descendants, or I've seen I've seen my genetic line, right?" And I was thinking he was talking about forward, and you cut to a baby, and I'm like, "Oh, is that Leto? Is that him? Are we about to see like him seeing his own children?" But no, we're talking about Jessica at that point. But it was such a fake out at that point. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like,
Ah,
are you gonna
and
do
then
it?
they did set up, and I know you haven't read as much, but they did set up a little Kevin and Brian storyline.
Yeah, yeah. We will get to that. I've been saying it for.
Yeah.
I've been threatening this for years, but we will get to it. Uh,
Yeah, because in the book, one of the books I want to say Paul of Dune
yeah,
is about Fade's daughter,
interesting. Very interesting.
and then they mentioned that. We talked. I want to circle back a little bit though. You talked about Zendaya. You
Yep.
kind of came around to her a little bit.
Well,
There
I came
wasn't.
down to her performance, and I think her performance was the right one for this role, and she pulled it off in this movie. She really did, because you could see the fear, not only for Paul, who she loves, but also for the trepidation she had at what was happening to the Fremen. Right, her role in the so-called prophecy that as Sihaya, right, like her entire place in this saga, you could see the hesitation, the doubt. I don't know if that was good direction, good acting, a meld of the two, but she pulled out something that I've never seen her do in other work, and I have to lend a little bit of credit to Villeneuve on that.
Yeah. What I was gonna say though is there wasn't a bad performance anywhere in this
No,
movie.
no, I don't think
Everybody was fantastic.
fantastic at the height of their powers. I can't think of even anything short of a rock solid performance from anybody. I think the only person
Austin, like Elvis looked like a complete psychopath.
he looked like a monster. How funny was his voice? Like Austin Butler and his voices. Like at one point
Because
I'm
he
like,
started talking like the Baron.
he
I was
started
like, "You
talking.
sound like the."
He like, "Hey, I'm just gonna copy. I could just imagine him going to like Stellan Skarsgård and be like, hey, I'm just gonna do what you do. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
start talking. Like as soon as you tell me I'm your heir, I'm just gonna copy you. And like great, it's a great choice for the character who is clearly just like a psychopath who wants to be like CEO of the Harkonnens, right? Like they say most CEOs are psychopaths
yeah,
anyways, right? So I
yeah.
mean that this makes a lot of sense. Um,
You're like the Baron gets stabbed in the neck, and he's just almost sitting there with a smile on his face,
he did
just like
smile. He did smile. He was excited for
like,
that.
"Look at that. I'm in charge now."
Yeah, he's like, "Ooh, this is good for me." The enjoyment of the fight. He loved fighting. He loved when he realized the Baron had sabotaged the battle a little bit by not drugging that one Atreides. He was like, "Ooh, okay, this is gonna be fun," and he toyed with the guy until he just completely dismissed him. It's like, "You fought well. Good for you." It
Yeah,
was great.
and the Atreides are supposed to be some of the best fighters, and they're supposed to be up there.
Right. Oh, that guy wasn't
Mm,
bad. He held his own. And, it was just such a different thing than that Sting performance, which is, very, very David Lynch compared to now. You really see the difference in what this character is supposed to be. Um, the choice to have like the Harkonnens completely hairless is a good one. It was such a weird look that made so much sense. Um,
yeah, and then we talked about it, like, when he kills his 2, what do you wanna call them, servants or whatever?
mhm.
When he gets the blade, he, like, immediately just slices the one woman's neck and just stabs the other one
Oh,
multiple
yeah.
times, and then the other one's just, like, sitting there
The
shaking, she's so
tremble
scared.
the trembling. There was a lot of that fear. Like, I love that. Like, just very subtle, like, the handshake just a little bit, but she brings it back together. Um, yeah, the
Like,
Harkonnens
don't
just, like,
wanna get.
kill servants, like, all over the place. Like, Beast kills, like, 2 or 3. I don't think the Baron does. I don't think the Baron has a
Yeah, he did,
he did?
because he had the 2 in there, and because
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought they were like, I was like, "Oh, are we going to show the Baron being a pedophile?"
Yeah, they sort of backed off from the pedophile thing, which I appreciate. I don't need that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's not like in play here. I don't think the movie's better for it. I don't think Baron is a better character for it. It's we all know. We all know what that guy is. So I'm glad
But he
for
did
that.
kill his 2 servants, like, just.
Yeah, you just see the bodies in the corner. Uh
Yeah.
Totally messed up. And Fade with his like cannibalistic harem, like that was wild.
Yeah.
Like my
Especially, like, after he kills 2 of them, and they're still just, like, following him
mhm.
religiously.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy stuff. And like he brings them like victims to eat. Like that's nuts.
Yeah.
Uh let's talk about the
My
whole
pets haven't eaten.
let's talk about the whole Geedy Prime sequence and how
Oh,
unbelievably like unique that was in the history of filmmaking. They shot the entire thing in infrared to bring out like that weird like black and white negative effect. They said you could actually see like underneath the skin a little bit. You could see like the blood moving through people's veins. It was incredible. It really had such a
it
what a
looked
look.
amazing. I thought, and like, when you see it in the trailer, you're thinking this is just a choice they're doing. And like, it's interesting that they're doing it. And then you realize, oh, it's because they've got this black sun.
The Black Sun. I'm glad they made mention of that. It's so cool. And I was reading an article that was explaining that it it was very much environmental, going very much back to what Herbert did with Dune. The environment of Geedy Prime influenced the Harkonnens to be cruel and unloving in all aspects of their society. And having that a sun that doesn't nourish you or enrich you or provide you, it strips away all color, it strips away all life. It just creates these monsters, and that's so fascinating. It's like an inverse world of what humanity should be, human nature.
And I loved when they were setting off the fireworks. We're talking about the aesthetics and how things looked.
Yeah,
The fireworks looked so awesome.
so
You know, like they
cool.
just like almost like ink blots up in the air.
Like the aliens in Arrival. I thought it looked a lot
Yeah.
like that. I was like, "That's so wild." And
Like when they were going off, I was like, that looks so
and
cool.
you see these shots, and Fraser did a great job with this. When they move from the outside and it's black and white, and you go inside and you see color again because you're outside of the sunlight. And that's a real thing. You can have light that strips color. It is possible to do that. It's very very interesting, and like I just thought it was a really really cool effect and so thoughtful in its design. Something that takes from what the descriptions are of Geedy Prime and just it makes it something so much more than that. And you compare it to the Lynch movie, and what was Geedy Prime in the Lynch movie? It was basically a weird room with no ceiling. Like, okay,
Yeah.
you don't really get an idea of the size and scope, and that there are people who live here, and there's a whole society here that is all built entirely around built around the Harkonnens and the Harkonnen way of life.
And a super bloodthirsty, like
Yeah,
barbaric society. Like they're all in the arena and they're just super excited to watch Fade kill these fighters that are obviously drugged. They're just like, yeah, they stand no chance. We're
they
just
knew.
here to
Everyone knew.
watch them get slaughtered, and they're
Yeah,
cheering
and
and they
there's
think it's great.
that. Yeah, they're totally bloodthirsty. And yeah, it was a crazy thing. So I thought that was really great. I love, um, and Lady Fenring. Oh my gosh, like it, that was like a downright erotic scene, and I don't think she even took off her clothes. Like it was
No.
what was it, Leia Sadu? She did a fantastic job with that character, really fleshing her out into something more than just like an interlude in the middle of the book. I think that was done well. No Count
Yeah,
Fenring.
we didn't get Count Finring at all.
No, no, not at all. Um,
Which honestly we didn't need him.
yeah, I think it might have been a little superfluous at this point, but like you were saying,
But I was not expecting them to give him the Gom Jabbar.
it was cool.
And
What a cool callback, because you see the difference in how they treated Paul's test compared to Fade's test. They come back from Fade's test, and Lady Fenring reports back to Reverend Mother Mahayam and is like, he can be controlled. We got him. This guy's gonna be all right.
yeah, we're
They
gonna channel our inner honored Matre and
Pretty much. I mean, the Bene Gesserit were doing the same thing at the same time, so let's not give them a pass. But
yeah.
I think that there was plenty there. Yeah, and like you said, it does set up the Brian and Kevin storylines as well, which is cool. I think that's great. It does play into might play into the Sisterhood series, which is still coming, and I'm even
Yeah.
more excited for it now than ever.
I did love that scene when Margot Fenring comes back because you get the Bene Gesserit talking, and it kind of like in the first, you kind of get an idea of what they're doing, and you know that they're influencing things. But just that short scene, you realize how many strings they're pulling and how much in charge they really are
Yeah.
behind the shadows of all this stuff.
Yeah, they're not the good guys either. Like there are no good
There are no
guys.
good guys,
That's
Joe.
that's the best part. You really get that sense. We're on. I love how they said it right at the end of the movie. We have no sides. We are the side. We're beyond. We're above sides. Yeah. What do they? I forget the actual quote. I think it was, "We have no sides. We have plans." It was something to that effect. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
we got the
fantastic.
plans within plans line.
We got that too. Oh, great stuff. Great stuff. Um, let's talk about Stilgar a little bit. Stilgar. Um, much different.
Javier Bardem,
Oh, what
great.
uh, much different performance from part one. Where he walks into uh he walks into Leto's office in Arakeen, and like a badass,
Spits on the table.
spits on the table. It's a big deal. And then walks
Like I'm
out.
not giving up my knife, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
in charge.
yeah. Like he's here. He is a convert. He's someone who has seen a prophecy and believes it, even when people are telling him, "Dude, the Bene Gesserit made this." He's like, "I don't care. Uh, I believe what I'm seeing. Like this is real." And is he wrong? Is he wrong for seeing the ability of Paul? No, he's not. Follows something completely different than anything he's ever seen, and anything the universe has ever seen. But he captures that zealous fervor, perfectly, perfectly. Uh,
And I I found that whole part fascinating where they had like some of the Fremen were like, this probably Cheney screams it like this is how they control us.
yeah,
This prophecy is, and so you have like one group that just because in the book you kind of get the impression that all the Fremen are behind Paul, like they all believe in this prophecy.
mindlessly, mindlessly. Yeah,
Yeah, and then you now it's kind of like, well, the ones in the South really believe in it.
they're the
The
fanatics.
ones in the North kind of think like, hey, this is kind of hokey, and
Right, and I love how the Harkonnens just completely dismissed the idea that, the South was inhabited, right? Because they're beyond the storms, and no one could survive there, and you're like, "No, dude, all the real zealots are all down there. They're the ones who are worshiping. They're the crazy ones. You don't even wanna mess with them."
yeah,
Uh, you know
and that's why they thought there was only like what they think like 35,000 maybe.
yeah, at
It
best.
was like millions.
Mhm. Millions and millions. So, it was it was fantastic. And the worms. The worms.
So many worms. So great.
The worm riding sequences. Uh, maybe it was naive of me to think that they weren't gonna be as fast as they were. I mean, obviously, we know they're
They were
fast.
moving.
Dude, bullet trains. And of course they're bullet trains, right? This makes a lot of sense that they're bullet trains. I just didn't I'm just not expecting it because of um the miniseries on TV and then the Lynch film. You just never got that sense of speed from the worm. You got the size, but you never got the speed. And here we have both.
And it was so great. They're just like riding on the worm. They got the Atreides flag that's been modified. It's not the green anymore.
Yeah.
It's the brown with the Fremen colors on it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It
It was
was
great. Like
so
Paul
good. I
Paul's
love that little touch
it was a
that they
great
had
touch.
modified the flag.
Yeah, desert power, baby. It was awesome to see that, and just to see Paul ride that. I never expected the worm again to be like half under the sand the entire time, and the only thing keeping a little bit of above ground was that flap of that's the scale, being
Yeah.
above. But it makes sense, like biologically why wouldn't the worm be mostly submerged as submerged as it could be? And they're basically just riding, not that far above the ground at like hundreds of miles an hour. Super cool. Although I do
And they
want,
had the
I want to know. We had the word palanquin, which is another God Emperor of Dune uh, reference there. But I wonder how they got that thing on the worm itself. I'm so curious about that one.
it, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they snuck up on it while I was asleep. I don't.
Let's just not worry about it. Uh,
Yeah.
Villeneuve says he knows how they get off the worms. He's like, I wanna film this. I have a great idea of how they do it, but I'm not gonna say it yet. Um, so at least he's thought that through, for what it's worth.
Maybe we'll get that. That's how Messiah is going to open up. It's going to be Cheney dismounting from the worm that she rode out.
Yeah, maybe. Well, there's gonna have to be a time jump in Messiah. There's no way around that. Because at
Yeah,
the
especially if you're going to have Anna Taylor Joy,
yeah, right. Who's clearly in her, you know, I mean, she could play younger
20s.
than she is. She can play younger than she is. She could play like a
Like Chalamet did it. Chalamet's like what, 27?
is he?
I think he is. Yeah. I mean, he's been around for a little while if you think about it.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so.
Interstellar.
Yeah. Oh. Um. So yeah, I think that there's a I don't even know where we're going with that. We're talking about the worms. I think that one of the best shots in the entire movie, and it was in the preview of Paul walking into the Battle of Arrakeen, and the worm is just like almost like dancing in back of him, and it's just like what a badass scene. Like even the worms, he's like striding across the desert, and the worms just like staring clear of him. Love
There were
that.
so many good scenes. You talk about that one, and I was one of my like some of the favorites that I have. I loved the Paul and Cheney one when they were sitting on the dune talking about water and swimming
Oh,
because
it's
the Zimmer
great.
score. I just thought that scene was just chef's kiss.
Great
But
acting.
then
Great acting.
we got the line Sahaya, which made me happy.
Yep.
I gotta be careful so I don't wake up my Sahaya
Uh,
behind me. She's being quiet. But then I also love the scene where
his dog,
Raban
people.
is
His dog. He named it
yeah
Sahaya.
yeah. I have a third dog now, so I got Leto, Ganima, and Sahaya now.
That's how we do it on the DuneCast.
Yeah, we name our pets.
Yeah.
But the scene where Raban is attacking and then he's like shouting and all his people are getting picked off.
Mm-hmm.
He's like challenging Muad'Dib and as people start getting picked off. The transformation of Raban, which is like this classic bully, like in the first
Yeah.
movie, he's literally like walking along, chopping people's heads off. And in the second one, he is scared. Like
Who knew?
Muad'Dib comes.
Who knew
Yeah.
he was a coward? I mean, it makes sense for the character. It's perfect that you have this big, huge, hulking guy who is like just like kills his inferiors and just torments people. But when he's actually like when force actually comes to his doorstep, he runs. He turned and ran like a little bitch coward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then his brother really put him in his place.
Kiss his foot. Like yeah. It was.
You've embarrassed this family.
It's kind of incredible
Like,
they didn't kill him right then and there.
Yeah. Well, you knew Gurney was going to kill him. You
You
knew they were
did.
going to let Gurney.
Yeah.
And that was a short fight, though.
Very
I was
short.
kind of surprised how short that one was.
I mean, guessing that Raban is a coward, probably not that good of a fighter either. Makes a lot more sense. Like, I'm glad he wasn't an oaf like in the Lynch film, but they also portrayed him as not that great a fighter. I wonder if there were extra scenes. I wonder if that was cut for time.
Yeah, maybe.
Perhaps these things happen.
But I like that they acknowledge, hey, Gurney, his whole family was killed by Beast Raban, and
yeah,
he got his revenge, which was nice.
He did. He absolutely did. Let's talk about Jessica a little bit.
Oof.
Jessica, wow.
This was a little bit different Jessica than the book.
Yeah, you didn't. Jessica was a little bit more loving, protective of her young son in the book. I would say. I think you get a little bit more shades of that than you do here. I think that she protected him as best as she could. She also protected herself as best she could. She protected Alia as best as she could. But there was also plenty of Bene Gesserit there. There was also plenty of fear of what Paul was becoming, right?
Yeah, and also the whole interaction with the fetus Aaliyah, which
Dude,
I thought was cool because,
masterful.
like in the book, they talk about Aaliyah, this little toddler walking around and talking and freaking everybody out.
Yeah.
But here you have Jessica walking around, like literally talking to her fetus, having a conversation. People are like, that's not normal.
So cool. It's a great. I think it was really interesting, and it made the movie more palatable. In a very it's a very slight nuance to most casual viewers. And it just made the movie just a little bit more palatable. For casual viewers to be like, okay, she's pregnant, she's talking to a baby. Yeah, I don't think a movie has ever shown that much fetus. The movie begins with.
To be fair,
Yes,
you called that.
Yeah. Yeah. We discussed this years and years ago, and we said, how wild would it be? The movie opens up essentially with Rebecca. I always call her Rebecca because that's Rebecca Ferguson. Jessica taking the water of life, and you see the fetus's eyes open, and that's essentially how the movie starts. And I'm like, boom, they did it. And I got to tell you, I like I said earlier, I started laughing. I started laughing when you see like an unborn fetus's eyes like open up with this like moment of understanding and complete clarity, and like what they actually did. I just started laughing. People around me are like, "You're a sick man."
Yeah. And you're like, I called this.
Yeah, years ago.
I knew they were going to do this.
DuneCast. But no, it was excellent. And done just so well.
But Jessica though, she's like the part where she goes to the temple, the maker, where they get the water of life, and she's like, a male is going to come here, and they're like, she's like, oh, he's going to die, and then she uses the voice to like let him do it.
The voice was used so well. You only used a couple of times, but man, was it powerful. I noticed every single time they used the voice, there was like a drum in the back. They used like percussion to really emphasize the to emphasize the power of the use of voice, and just put just hitting people right off the head with it. And I love that. It was so effective to do it that way. So you see, if you hear Jessica use the voice on, I think that was a dwarf woman. Um,
I don't know,
she was
but
very small in
the
one scene, maybe a little
I
person.
liked the scene where she just like climbs in that sand and she's got like that wide stance and she's just slapping the ground
So cool, so cool.
trying to get, and it jumps out and she like catches it. I'm like, that is amazing. That is such a great scene.
I really liked the use of the thumpers too, and the use of just hitting the ground. Like it felt like like they were using drum sand, like that effect where you can hit specific types of sand and really use it as a real percussive instrument. Um, that was really cool, because there are plenty of scenes on the sand where they're just walking. Where's the worm? Where's the worm coming? They're just walking normally, and you realize you're not in the open desert. There's no worm. No worm's coming there. It's probably like shallow, probably only 2 feet deep of in the bedrock underneath. So it's a very nuanced thing that you pick up in the dialogue, but it's not really talked about a lot. Um,
Yeah, I do like when Paul has his challenge and then he's like being super careful and going through there, and then all of a sudden Cheney's there like, you're not even to worm country yet. Like,
yeah, what are you doing, dude?
yeah,
Yeah,
and then he tries to explain to her, well, actually, the
he's
anthropologist,
like, well,
all the videos, and she's just like looking at him like, are you seriously trying to tell me how to do the Fremen sandwalk?
yeah, exactly. It's like I'm just gonna listen to you.
Yeah, I realize what I'm doing now.
The sandwalk was excellent. I loved how it captured the look of the Fremen writing at the same time. The Fremen writing is born out of the sandwalk, and it was an excellent comparison, and I loved how it looked on screen. It was absolutely gorgeous. So it done really well, especially when they were doing it in unison. Cheney and Paul were both walking at the same time. Really, really cool. Really done perfectly. Done exactly as you picture in your mind's eye.
Yeah, and we talked. Another thing we called was Jameis being used as like a vision, almost as a guide.
Yeah, dude, that was all you. You called that. You called that, and it happened. Are they
I would have
listening?
liked to
Are
have
are you
seen more.
guys listening? Because we love you.
Yeah, I
Good
think they do.
job.
I mean, why wouldn't they?
Good job.
But I would have liked to have seen more of it. Actually, I thought that was like a really cool thing that they did.
He might show up
I could have
again.
had more.
He could show up again in Messiah. You never know, right?
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't have Hera in there. They
No,
didn't do that scene.
they did not. They did not do that
They
scene.
didn't do the I was a friend of Jameis scene,
No, I think that got
and
that.
I'm okay with that.
It's okay. Yeah, I think a lot of the Fremen, I don't call it mysticism, but the Fremen they they touched on different aspects of Fremen culture, stuff that felt a little more natural than these pro, processions and professions of faith. How would I say that? Yeah. It was they didn't really get into these really long drawn out rituals, right? I think that's really the best way to say it. It
I
wasn't
mean, they touched
ritualistic.
on the crying. They touched on the crying and not to
Yep.
do it.
Yep.
I love the scene where Stilgar takes his thumb, like Jessica was crying,
Yeah.
and like literally takes his thumb, washes or like wipes the tear, and then sucks his thumb.
Yeah. He's like,
Just like, don't you dare waste moisture.
and,
That scene was so cool.
and I like how it was just so much more natural. It wasn't like we're gonna kill you if you cry. It's not like that. It's like it's more of a cultural faux pas. Like this is you're breaking a mores by
Yeah,
doing this. Like we're not.
yeah,
You're gonna be frowned upon. You're gonna be ostracized if you do this. Don't do it. Like straight up, don't do it. Like that's it.
yeah. And then
More natural.
yeah, and then Jessica made Cheney do it. Like that part. Like another thing alienating Cheney right now. Jessica.
Yeah, yeah,
y-
yeah, very much, because she
Like
was she was a threat to her consolidation of power in the group. She needed to preserve that for the benefit of Paul, for the benefit of Alia, and yeah, I think that the portrayal of Jessica in this movie sets up Children of Dune really well, because the Jessica we have here is much closer to the Jessica of Children, um, a woman who is
More of the Benny Jesuit type, where
yeah,
she's kind of gone back.
she's yeah, she's straddling both worlds. She's straddling her filial duties to the Atreides line, but also, you know, also straddling her 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 responsibilities as a Bene Gesserit. A group that she has not been in contact with for quite a while as well. Like, we're talking about a rogue
No,
right now. She's rogue, and she's just doing what she got to do. So that's very interesting as well. Already a black sheep for
she's
producing Paul, by the way, too.
yeah, she stared down Gaius Hellenheim in that last in the throne room.
Okay. Can this is if I had a criticism of anything, if I had a criticism of anything in this movie, it was that. Because and people write in, let me know if I'm wrong here. Uh I don't remember the Bene Gesserit having any ability to telepathically talk with one another in the same room. Uh if they were sharing, right? If they were sharing like with the hand on the head, then yes, I get it. But they were just like chatting it up, like telepathically. And I don't believe the Bene Gesserit have that ability.
Well, in the 1984 movie,
Uh-huh.
they did.
Okay. There was also
Because
weirding
remember,
there's also weirding modules in the 1984 movie.
that's fair. That's fair. But do you remember in the same scene, Aaliyah staring at Guy, and she's like, "Get out of my head."
Yeah. Yeah, she almost like nearly blew up her head. Yeah. Yeah, and that doesn't make any sense either. But yeah. So
That's just my attempt to logic it out for you.
yep. I mean, to that point, when Paul took the water of life and he had his vision of Aaliyah, and uh, we're talking to Anya Taylor Joy there. They do have a conversation, right? I mean, so there is a bit of telepathy there too, is there not?
A little, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
guess it. Yeah,
unless he's talking.
communicating with the vision.
Yeah, like he's talking. He's seeing a vision of her in the future. Um, who knows? It's very interesting. Maybe like is Aaliyah talking to Paul in the past? Basically, like, is Aaliyah 20 years in the future, or let's say 15 years in the future, and sending a message backwards through prescience? Now that would be wild.
Poss-
Like
Possibly.
she can't really hear him, but she knows that he'll be watching her at that moment. So she's sending that message back through prescience. That's something that's possible. That's something that I
Yeah.
sort of need some edibles to process fully. But
Well, I mean, Leto kind of did it, didn't he?
oh yeah, Leto did that in Heretics.
Yeah, you had the message on the cave wall.
Yeah, Leto did that. Also, they blew up Siege Tabor.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
So
I don't know where Leto's going to hide his spice now.
I guess they're gonna rebuild Siege Tabor. That's all I can imagine. A lot of water down there. A lot of water.
Yeah.
You don't just let that go.
That part I was not expecting.
No, neither was I. Because
It was a cool scene.
it's essentially the moment where Leto the Second, the Elder, Leto the Second, the First would have been murdered. And I was just waiting the entire time to hear that Chaney was pregnant. I was waiting for it, and they just didn't do it.
Maybe they'll do that in Messiah.
Yeah.
Do you think they'd pick up in Messiah, since we're so good at calling things? Do you think they'll pick up Messiah essentially where Dune Part 2 leaves off, and then, like introduce a little bit and then do a time jump?
I don't.
Or do you think they'll go straight to the time jump?
I think we're gonna get the time jump, because what we have in at the end of Dune was Paul telling Jessica, I believe it was, like, she'll come around. She will see what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I think you will probably cut to I think the movie will essentially begin with Paul in his giant palace, like the 2 mile, was it like a 5 mile or I forget how
Build a
long it was,
massive.
but it was many miles long. Like his palace complex was like someone literally had to walk like it might have just been only a mile, which is long enough.
Still
Yeah,
a haul.
yeah. They enter the door and it's like a mile to get to Paul's throne and kneel before him. Um, I can't wait to see that on screen. I think it's going to open there, and I think you'll get some exposition of where the universe is after the Fremen Atreides jihad. Also, a word they did not touch. I think that's fine too. We don't need to get into those waters in today's political climate. It's just not going to help not going to help the movie, not going to help the story. It's just something we can leave behind at this moment. Um,
Yeah.
that's fine.
They're just gonna lead them to paradise.
Lead them to paradise. Now, okay, I got to touch on this for a second because with that political climate, and we talk about Stilgar's zealotry, uh, the look in his eyes as they're boarding the ships. Holy crap! What acting there? Do you remember what I said it looked like? I said he had the crazy zealous eyes of a January 6th insurrectionist. Like
Yes.
I remember like those nut jobs having the exact same eyes, like that crazy look. Like we made it. We're on ships. We got ship. We like as they're slaughtering the Landsrad, they're slaughtering whatever amounted for democracy at that time. Like that's what the good guys are doing right now. They're just killing them.
Yep.
And they're like, we got the ship. I can't believe we made it this far. We got ships. We're
That's,
taking
I
this.
think I told you I want a scene of like some Fremen as they go to some planet that has a pond or a lake or a sea or something
Yeah,
of them trying to figure out how to swim.
I think it would be interesting for Messiah to begin with a bit of a montage, a bit of the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring, right? Like where they sort
Hmm.
of give you of like here's everything you've missed, sort of type of thing. But, I think that would be really interesting to see how the Atreides Empire is born because you really don't see you see the zealotry, you see the Fremen boarding the ships. It's a fantastic it's an incredible moment. Um, and Paul saying lead them to paradise, knowing full well they're gonna kill billions. Like he's seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen the vision multiple times in the movie. Paul is fully aware what he's doing and why he's doing it.
Yeah. He wants his revenge. You know, his dad didn't believe in revenge,
But he does. Yeah,
but I do.
but I do. Yeah. Um, I thought it was interesting when the emperor calls his father a weak man, right? Like he was like, your father was a weak man. Walken, by the way, excellent in this movie.
Yeah.
Far different portrayal of the Padishah Emperor Carino than I've seen anywhere else. Like this is a
It was not a typical walk-in performance.
no. You did get a bit of his trademark inflection, a little bit, but not much. Muad'Dib, Muad'Dib. I love when he
I
said
tell you
that.
though, I loved Florence Pugh as Irulan.
She did a great job. Florence Pugh is fantastic in everything she does. I can't
Yeah.
think of a bad performance she's
I
ever put out.
loved her in that part.
Um,
Like, and then we had the scenes where
but
she was reading.
I think that she kind of can't do any wrong with me.
No, that's I haven't seen anything wrong yet. I liked when she was reading, dictating, you know, the journal.
Oh man! If
Uh,
if they could go back and insert more of that into Dune Part One, it would make it so much more cohesive. Because I mean, that's just a nod to Herbert. Like every chapter in the Dune saga, every single chapter begins with a book excerpt, and I believe most of
the
Dune, if not
children's
all
story
of it,
of Muad'Dib.
yeah, I believe I believe all of Dune is from Irulan's perspective. I may be wrong on that, but uh, yeah, like all of that is yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. And the code cylinder that the Emperor reads, the cylinder, I'm like, yeah, look at that. That was fantastic. And he just
And
drops
then,
it. He just drops it. I love that too.
yeah, we didn't get the reveal in the final scene. You know, like, oh, Muad'Dib is actually Paul Atreides. You know, they already knew. Like, he sent the message.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that was great. Um it's funny, we haven't talked a lot about Paul himself.
No, but Timothy Chalamet killed that. Like he went from, the end, that scene where he just walks in and just takes the stage.
Okay.
And he's like, not one of you could take me.
No, yeah, like, okay, he begins the movie so I don't wanna call him innocent because he wasn't innocent, but there
Hesitancy.
was a normalcy to he had humanity. He was a conflicted young man who didn't know his place in the world. He thought he found his place with the Fremen. And I think most stories would leave it there. Like he dances with wolves, that shit. He became part of the Fremen, and he's gonna be a happy guy being a Fremen, helping the Fremen take back their planet. Like that's where most stories would lead that. But this isn't most stories. This is Dune. This is why Dune is above and beyond. This is why the Dune saga is above and beyond most stories. Because what you get is a total rejection of of that easy path, that life that he was going to have. Forced into it by obligation, forced into it by for lack of a better word, destiny. Forced into it because there's no other way for him to uh he has to go all the way. He has to overthrow the empire. He saw the narrow road. He has to save humanity, and there's only one way to do that. Spoiler alert: it's about saving the entire species.
He turned into a totally different person after the water life scene.
Yeah, complete
And he played it as a complete different person.
completely changed. It was exactly what it should be. And it's not a boy becoming a man. It's a complete transformation into a human. There was so much humanity in his portrayal in like the first half of the movie. And then duty called to him. He was afraid. He was afraid of going south. He was afraid of taking the water of life. And he realized he had to do it, and he went full into it, and he took the water of life. And I thought this was very interesting. And I don't know if I got to my first. I even forget what I was going to say about my first complaint about the movie. I forget what scene we were talking about, but if there was anything that I could critique about this, the uh, the scene in which Paul takes the water of life wasn't played as epically as I thought it could have been. The visuals were a bit standard from what we've seen in previous incarnations. It was a bit fast. We didn't get the retching and the contortion of the body that we got when Jessica took it, because that was, I mean, I think she was fantastic in that portrayal when she took the water of life. I think there was a lot more of a chance of her dying than there was of Paul. And Paul's like, he's like, dude, don't even worry about her. She knows how to transmute this. She's been training for this her whole life. Even though she's scared, she'll be fine. And Paul just walks in and he's like, give me, I'll have two shots of the water of life, and he takes it. He sleeps for a while, and he's fine. And of course, Cheney gives him one more drop, and that like wakes him back up. It's like, ooh, okay. I don't know the true
With the desert spring.
with the desert spring. Yes, it's a nice prophecy. I don't know what the I don't know what the actual purpose of that was.
How many prophecies did they have?
I mean, it feels like they had like a good set, of them, maybe like at least a good dozen, right? Um,
Yeah. Because like he's awakened by the desert tears of a desert spring, and it was like, huh, that's
Yeah.
an oddly specific.
he will know the day, the ways of your people, like all that
Yeah,
sort of
those
stuff.
are kind of generic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awakened by
This one I was like, well, that's kind of a specific one. I imagine.
Yeah, yeah. I think they really did the naming sequence really well too. Like it's a it's the Fata Keen, right? It's a hunting party. It's a war party, and they're celebrating their victory. That evening, and they're like, "You're in, dude." And like the entire explanation by Silgar of why Muad'Dib is a great name, man, it's just done so well.
Yes.
It was so not wooden compared to what it was the Lynch movie. It was just done so
And he
well.
and he calls back to it a couple times. I am the one who points the way.
I am the one who points the way. Like that's it. And how better can you describe prescience? And I like that when they talked about prescience, it really was him standing on top of a hill. He couldn't see further. and then all of a sudden he could. And you notice when Paul is after he's transformed, there's a darkness about his eyes. There's a darkness in his character. He walks differently. He's stronger. He sees the way. He sees, and he knows exactly what he has to do and why he has to do it.
He's there's no tentativeness about him.
No,
There's not. He walks into a room kind of like Stilgar did in part one.
yeah.
He walks into that room and he is in charge. He is in command.
What's the phrase? He's filled with terrible purpose.
Yeah.
Terrible purpose. That is the way to describe him after he has taken the water of life. Paul Muad'Dib Atreides is just, you see it in his walk. You see it in how he talks. And man, Chalamet pulled off like the power in which he speaks, the confidence. It is the charisma. It was charismatic, but it was unyielding. It was a tyrant speaking. But at the same time, a savior. It was everything. It was all of it together. And man, he was undeniable. He was an undeniable performance, and it's exactly what I was expecting, what I hoped for. Because you just got a glimpse. You got a glimpse of it in part one when he was in the tent with Jessica, right? And you got
Yeah.
you got a second glimpse of it when he's like, "That's not hope." Fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. What a rejection of religion right there too. The whole movie. I've said it before that I think Dune is it is an atheist fairy tale. You know what I mean? It's a
That's a.
what's that?
I said that's a good assessment.
It is. It's a complete rejection of religion, and it's a critique upon it, and of society, what religion does to society and what society does to religion and how it's used. And I just think that I'm so glad they brought those concepts into this movie and not waited for Messiah to really flesh those out, because it just colors the entire film in such a beautiful way.
Listen, Denis understood the assignment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And everything just felt so earned, right? It felt so earned with Paul. His whole training with you really felt that he wanted his life to go one way, and he even was saying, "He's like, Father, I've found my way." Yeah, you found your way, and you had to abandon it. He had to abandon his place in the world that he thought he found, and that was it made it all that more tragic for all of it.
Man, that was so good. I love the fact that he's calling back to his dad, though. I'm
Yeah,
sad we didn't get more Oscar Isaacs because I think he was so good as Duke Leto.
he was great. He was great, but I mean, how much more can you do, right? That's it.
Yeah,
He played his
just
part.
like it's just one of those. It's sad. Well, you're sad that you didn't get more Duke Leto in general.
I feel like you were sad you didn't get more Thufir.
I did miss Thufir
Yeah,
with his little what do you call the parasol?
the little parasol. Yeah, you call it a parasol. um, yeah. I mean, they did cut. He was alive at the end of part one, but I mean, how much are we to expect after seeing what the Harkonnens are really like on their homeworld? Are we really to expect that guy lived? Nah.
Yeah, because we didn't get Piter. Now that I think about it, I just now realized.
Yeah, no Piter, huh?
Well, did Piter die?
I think Piter dies by the tooth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he died in the tooth, didn't he?
yeah, he dies with the tooth
In the first movie.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But Thufir was like, they had him poisoned and he got the antidote.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, but I thought I read online where the actor's name was listed in the credits. So I wonder if it wasn't filmed.
I bet it was filmed and got cut. I bet it was cut.
Yeah.
Especially if he's in the credits. It's quite possible that it was just a scene that needed to be cut for time.
And I don't know that he was. I'll look for that on my next viewing.
Yeah, yeah. I was hoping to see Sandtrout when we saw the baby worm put in the water. Yeah, that would have been so cool.
I was looking for it and it didn't happen, but
yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, I was really hoping for it. That would have been fantastic. More setting up children a little bit more. So we know that Messiah's a go. I mean, it's not been officially greenlit, but
I don't know how it isn't.
This movie's a critical and financial success. The script is already out there. People are talking openly about it. Legendary and Warner Brothers are very happy with the Dune franchise, and I think they're going to be even more after this weekend. So we know it's a foregone conclusion at this time that we're recording that this thing is greenlit, and it's probably going to be a lot faster than they were talking about months ago. We
Yes.
have Dune: The Sisterhood still in development. It's coming out. We're going to be watching that, and we'll be covering that show as well on the DuneCast. We're back, guys. It's been a wild
A
couple of
while.
years, hasn't it? uh,
COVID ruins everything, Joe.
yeah, dude, I needed some time off. I was very burnt out with a lot of things, and I'm really happy to be back and glad that the fire's back. You know what I mean? Um, so we're here, but yeah. So I think even when Villeneuve is done with this franchise after his trilogy, I believe, much like the Harry Potter series, also helmed up by Warner Brothers, that we'll be seeing more films. I think that Dune has proven itself to be a something that people are interested in. That you can do it right. It's not the unfilmable uh, story that people thought it was in the past. And I do think we're gonna get much more of the saga than we ever anticipated.
It is interesting. I'm actually so I've read the book and I'm currently listening to it, but I'm currently listening to Brian's biography of his father
Yep.
and talking about the different attempts at turning it into a movie.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting. And everybody thought, like you said, they thought this was this unfilmable story.
Yeah. Well,
And Denis steps in and he says, "Hold my spice beer."
yeah, exactly. I mean, they, you know, people, you had a couple of tries, right? I mean, I think, you know, you had that rapist give it a try in the '70s, and that didn't get too far. And then you had Lynch, and that was,
We had Ridley Scott apparently was at one point attached to it.
yeah, there was something going on, in
There was another guy, I cannot remember his name, but he had the movie rights and it just
yeah, it
never.
never went anywhere in the early aughts. That's a whole other long story of the movie rights to Dune and the attempts to make it. But they got something here. They got it. They're doing it right, and I think they would be crazy to end to 3 movies. I think they'd be crazy because there's so much more really
You're
interesting
leaving so
story.
much on the table.
They're leaving
I
so much
mean,
on the
there's
table.
just you've got the first 6 books and all the others. I mean, because Brian and Kevin wrote so much back history of the universe.
You know that there's motivation. You know the Herbert family has a lot of motivation for wanting to produce this stuff. You know that it's a financial success now. They're flush with cash. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I think that there's gonna be a lot more Dune than we ever expected, and I don't think it's gonna be fatiguing. I think they're gonna do it very selectively because the Herbert family is pretty good at at not tarnishing the legacy of Herbert or the books. Um, so I don't think it's gonna be anything like an MCU or a Star Wars or even a Lord of the Rings. Uh, um, so I do have faith in that. I just think we're gonna get more, and I think they really did it, and I'm really happy for that. So my hope in seeing the God Emperor on screen is not dead.
Oh,
It's not dead,
no, it definitely is not dead.
dude. There's a Bashar. There's a Bashar in the credits. I
I
mean,
mean, a couple years ago, I would have been like, yeah, it'd be nice, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. Now I'm like, I'm not so sure it's not.
I'm not so sure it's not either. I mean, if someone told me that they have like preliminary plans to flesh out like the entire Dune saga, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked that those plans aren't, whether or not they're greenlit. I don't know, but uh, I wouldn't be shocked that those aren't in development. Those aren't on someone's
And even if
computer somewhere.
and even if Nee is not directing further projects,
Yep.
I can see him very much being like a Kevin Feige type role of directing.
An executive producer for sure, right? Guiding and just having input in the future of the franchise for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. There's going to be more to say about this film. We're going to see it more times for sure.
Oh, 100%. I've already got a couple of people lined up next week.
I have to say I will give a bit of a mea culpa. Because in 2021 I was very excited about the premise of day and date streaming as well as releasing it. I mean, I was more worried that I was more interested in rethinking the entire paradigm of the movie industry. But I was a bit naive in thinking that those type of ships could be turned so quickly. It really does. Success for a film really does boil down to box office. And that's if a film is going to succeed, it needs to be in a movie theater, and people need to go out and see it. End of story. That's just the way this business works, and it's really great that Dune got the chance to shine there, where it belongs on the big screen.
And I've been telling people like this is definitely like an IMAX, a big D. You know,
I saw it in a Dolby Atmos theater, and I was thoroughly happy with it. I recommend Dolby Atmos myself. I think it's my favorite format to watch a movie in, even more than IMAX these days. But go with what you got in your area. But I thought the Atmos theater was great. The screen is beautiful. The sound is amazing. I had like butt kickers in the seats too, and I got to tell you, the atomics scene, it felt like the entire room was just shaking.
I'm jealous. I don't have that around here.
Hey, heretics reference in this movie. We didn't even mention it yet. Gurney says there's enough atomics in here to blow up the entire planet, and I feel like I feel like he looked at the screen there, like, huh?
Yeah.
That couldn't possibly happen, right? He's like, I'm just kidding.
We'd never blow up Dune.
He's like, I'm just kidding. It's like, huh? You know what I mean? And like,
yeah,
and that's just one of those moments for me. Like they went there. They actually dropped that. Like that's not in the books. That's not something they say. No, the concept of blowing up this planet has never been something discussed. It's awesome. It was just so cool. So yeah. I think we should wrap it up here with our first impressions and first look at this film. Rod, any last words? Any last impressions you want to say?
I would say, like obviously they changed a couple things, but I have zero complaints about what they changed. I don't think it hurt the story at all. I think, some things might have even made it a little better.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie was fantastic. I feel like this is like the Lord of the Rings all over again. A lot of people are saying that, but
it's the best.
This is such a great movie.
It's the best.
Like even friends I have that aren't
from,
even friends I have that are not huge fans of the book series and stuff are texting me and they're like, "That was a great movie," and I'm like, "Yes, yes, it was."
You get it now. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. Welcome to Dune. It truly is the best film adaptation of a book since Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings. Not The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, we won't talk about The Hobbit.
No, we're not going to talk about that or any other film adaptations in the meantime since those books, since those films. But yeah, I mean, it's really, really impressive. It's a hell of a film. It's going to be well remembered for years to come. I can't wait to watch 1 and 2 back to back as one film.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Give me that in the theater.
Give me that in the theater, man. Give me a little bit of a special edition, stitching it all together. Maybe dropping a few extra scenes in part 1 to round it out, or maybe a bit of an edit to fix. I don't want to say fix, but optimize the pacing of part 1 a little bit more. So they flow together perfectly, and I think you have just a hell of an experience. And the definitive adaptation of Frank Herbert's novel.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to the DuneCast. Like I said before, we are back. We're going to be doing this much more regularly. Let's pull back the curtain a little bit. We do have podcasts recorded that we've done over the past few years that I haven't released yet, mainly because I haven't edited them yet. Because, pulling back the curtain, I was a bit burned out for a while there. Weren't we all a little bit burned out? Where were you in 2021? Because I was, we all know. Anyways, so whether or not those see the light of day, I'm going to give a listen and evaluate those. We did dig a bit into Hunters of Dune at that point. We might come back. We're definitely going to come back to the book. Whether or not we re-record or release what we have remains to be seen. But you'll know either way. Let us know what you think of this movie. What you think of the DuneCast. What our direction should be going forward. What you want to hear. We're open to everything. Let us know. DuneCast@retrozap.com. It's there. That's our email address, and we want to hear from you. I just want to thank you for sticking with us and being around still. If you've been here, if this is your first time listening to the show, or if this is, you've been here since day one, we love you and thank you. It's humbling. We're grateful to be in this position, to be able to talk about these films with you, and just be here to enjoy this movie that we started this podcast years ago saying, hey, if we start now, we're gonna have a really great head start on these films when they come out, and it's really exciting. And you know what, Rod and I have some plans to maybe talk about some other franchises too. Snicked.
It's a true story.
Snickety. We'll leave it there. Okay, so we'll talk to you soon, guys. And new call out for the end of the show: do not embarrass us. Probably not. We'll still figure it out. But for Rod Johnson, I'm Joe Tavano, and we'll see you guys very soon. Thanks.